Ladies and gentlemen, guys and dolls, welcome to another episode of Inside the Mug. My name is Tony, the host of the Pod Tiki podcast, and this is Inside the Mug, where we go deep inside the mug. It's kind of like our behind-the-scenes show to talk about stuff that's going on in the last couple episodes, or in the world of Pod Tiki, or just me rambling on about stuff. So, welcome back. I know it's been a while. As you can see, I finally have a space set up to kind of do this. We're going to kind of play it by ear and see how it works out, right? All right. Let me see. Maybe you got to do a little something like that. Keep it. There you go. It seems a little level now, right? All right. It's been a while. We missed the last drink, which was the 2 episodes ago, the Missionary's Downfall. Missionary's Downfall, man, what a great drink. I love that drink. It's got a lot of unique flavors with the mint mixed right in. I like that. The pineapple. It's a really interesting drink, and it's one of those things though that I love it, but it's so complicated to make. The prep time, chopping pineapple and all that. It just seems like you have to set out. Like I gotta go to the grocery store to make that cocktail. Like ahead of time. I gotta plan it out. So it's a little bit much. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about what's your threshold for how long it takes you to make a cocktail, or how many ingredients, or how difficult it is to make versus your enjoyment? What's the cost-benefit analysis on cocktails? But it does show Don Beach's proclivity for coming up with new stuff and trying stuff out. Although a lot of what he did. Well, before we get to that, let me tell you the little story behind the Missionary's Downfall. Why I chose it for that episode. The very first time I had one was at local tiki bar here called Chopper, and the now GM Nick. When I first met him, we started talking tiki a little bit, and kind of found out I was into it. And he was like, "Hey, let me make you something. Let me make you something." Off menu. This is when they were just opening up. They were a little bit slower, and they had time to bullshit. Now you go in there and they say hi to you, and you have to. It's become one of those places now where you have to get wait to sit at the bar. Like, let me get off my soapbox before I go too far, but I cannot stand places where you have to make a reservation or wait and put your name in to get a spot at the bar. You should be able to walk up and sit at the bar wherever you want, first come, first served. And if you're 3 or 4 deep at the bar, that's you. You shouldn't have to make a reservation, or you shouldn't have to be sat at the bar. Anyway, I digress. But anyway, long time ago, years ago, he made me a Missionary's Downfall. His was, I believe, the strained version, like a clear version, if I remember correctly, and not the frozen version. But both I enjoy. Actually, I like the cocktail version, maybe even a little bit more than the frozen drink, but it's even harder to make. Because if you ever tried to strain pineapple through like a fine strainer, it takes you gotta squeeze it in there. You gotta push it. It doesn't work out very well. You almost need like a cheesecloth instead to kind of and twist it out. I don't know. I haven't mastered it. If anybody has any info, leave it in the comments about the best way to strain a citrus drink without getting the quickest way. Also, leave in the comments if you have your ideas for what your thoughts are on how long things take to make versus your enjoyment, whatever. But Missionary's Downfall, one of the things that it does show though is how so a lot of the pre-cocktail era of drinks were punches, and punches a lot of that stuff that came from the Caribbean, even pirate ships and sailing ships and things like that. The colonizers, they brought over all those things, and then their spirits, and they were mixed with rum in the Caribbean, and with all the new fruits and stuff they had in the Caribbean. And then of course cocktails came along about the mid-19th century, and those were solely an American creation. I'm sorry, let me get my notes. So I got my notes here off to the side. So and then the cocktails you could see where they would borrow some things from the idea of mixing different punches and what together, but they were mostly spirits and liqueurs and sugars and things like that, and syrups. and you can see where Don Beach kind of pulled from all kinds of that stuff. A lot of his cocktails are based, a lot of his drinks are based on a simple daiquiri recipe, like with the sour, sweet, and spirits. He's got a couple based on punches and things like that. Trader Vic was more basing his drinks on punches, but you can definitely see where Don the Beachcomber was very influenced by that early American cocktail movement, by guys like Jerry Thomas and the guys that eventually led into the creation of the Corpse Reviver, which is our last episode. Corpse Reviver sounded to me, I always thought it was kind of like a tiki drink cocktail. I never realized till I started getting into drinks a little bit more that it's actually a golden age, pre-Prohibition era cocktail. I always feel like I have to explain myself when we do classic cocktails on a tiki podcast, but the Venn diagram where Caribbean, island drinks and classic cocktails and European punches and then tiki drinks, there's the Venn diagram where they all meet in the middle. It's vast. Like there's a big area where they all cross over, and we wouldn't have tiki without the classic golden age Prohibition era cocktails, because Don Beach learned so much about mixing from those early cocktails. If you look at his daiquiris, if you look at the crustas or anything, man. You look at even I'm trying to think of something, even something like the Missionary's Downfall, the different, throwing herbs and sugars and fruits and stuff into a drink that was not created by tiki. They maybe didn't have blenders and crushed ice back before Prohibition, but they did. It was very common to use seasonal fruits and natural sugars in cocktails and drinks. For a long time. It was Francis Drake that they say first invented, or the people that he met in Cuba that were the original people to mix spirits and mint and sugar and water together to make an early mojito or a daiquiri. So these things were medicinal and then used to cover up spirits. Anyway, I'm rambling. Those two, the Corpse Reviver though, man, I really was one of those drinks where I wondered, where the hell have you been my whole life? I love this drink. I love the way the Lillet and the orange or the triple sec kind of blend together. It's gin, a London Dry, with lemon juice, Lillet Blanc, which is like a white wine aperitif, but not vermouth, because they taste very different. I've seen some recipes call for vermouth or call Lillet a vermouth product, and it's not. If you read the label, it says it's a French white wine aperitif. Which I guess technically vermouth is too, but it's not. It doesn't have that kind of like bitter pungence that a vermouth has, where it has the Lillet Blanc has more of a creamy, sweet Chardonnay type buttery texture, a flavor to it. So I actually I've tried it in the Lillet Blanc with the London Dry in a martini to see how it would be, and it's actually kind of gross because it doesn't do the same thing vermouth does to a martini. So, and then the last ingredient, what did I say? London Dry, triple sec, Lillet Blanc, and lime juice. And then the last ingredient is going to be a few drops up to maybe a bar spoonful of absinthe. I gotta say, this drink, it calls for equal parts all the way across in the original recipe, and as much like equal parts, one part or 1 ounce of everything across the board, except for the absinthe, that calls for like 2 or 3 dashes. So, but if you make it with a full ounce of lemon juice, I find that it ends up being more like a daiquiri. Like it ends up being, and turns more into a sour than a cocktail, than a real like dramatic cocktail. And I think that just has to do with maybe the fact that back then the spirits and the liqueurs were heavier or thicker, pungent. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. They were more flavorful, not in a good sense, but they maybe burned a little bit more. They were heavier. They just were. They were just more. They were just more of everything. So just less refined. So now that our spirits are a little bit more refined and our liqueurs are more refined, I toned back on the lemon juice to a half ounce. So I did a half ounce of lemon juice, 1 ounce of London Dry Gin, 1 ounce of triple sec, and 1 ounce of the Lillet Blanc, and then I did about a bar spoon, like 2 or 3 dashes of absinthe. And I gotta tell you, it's one of those cocktails that is so well balanced that you can't pick out the flavors really. They all just kind of go together. Like if you think about, the orange, you can kind of taste the orange with the bolstered by the Lillet, but it kind of goes into the floweriness of the gin, and then when you think about orange flower, right? And then all underneath there's the lemon, but then there's like a freshness from the lemon, which also lends to the orange and the botanical. And then the one contrasting flavor would be the absinthe, which is just so mildly under there. You have to really think about it to taste it, but if you take it out, you notice it's gone. So it has to be there, and it's just such a well-balanced cocktail. You can listen to the episode to hear all about it, who invented it, where it was invented. Turns out that it's not just a drink. The Corpse Reviver didn't start out as a cocktail recipe, but a genre of drink, like a hangover cure drink, much like the Zombie and the Suffering Bastard were in our tiki world. Joe Shalom, who created the Suffering Bastard, another great example of somebody who created tiki drinks that are now considered part of the tiki oeuvre, but he was a serious, dramatic bar, like a golden age cocktail, not golden age, but he was a classic mixologist, trained, really probably wouldn't have even considered himself like a tiki guy until maybe later on in his career when he moved to the Caribbean and worked in the Carib Hilton, which ironically he was the bar manager for the Carib Hilton bar program, even though they had a Trader Vic's in the basement, or on the bottom floor, much like the Hilton in Atlanta has a Trader Vic's in their bottom floor now, but still has their own bar program, which that must have been a cool hotel, right? You get a Trader Vic's, an original Trader Vic's cocktail menu, and then you can go upstairs and get a Joe Shalom cocktail menu like this. Ironically, they both had Suffering Bastards on the menu, although Joe's was the real one. Trader Vic, for all his glory, his Suffering Bastard is pretty much just a Mai Tai with an extra shot of rum. So it's, they're called the same thing, but they're not. But Joe Shalom's is the real Suffering Bastard. Also, another gin cocktail. Something about gin as a hangover cure, right? It was very popular to use those in hangover cures. So, I got turned on to doing a classic drink. First of all, the Corpse Reviver came to me because it was the Halloween season, and I wanted to do a Halloween-themed cocktail, Corpse Reviver. If you listen to the show, I'm really proud of that intro I did. I hope you guys liked it. That was done in that style of narrative because I just got done watching those series on Netflix of was it Roald Dahl? They read his books and they read them and his short stories, and they made little picturesques out of them, and they read them like in that style. So like Roald Dahl, Edgar Allan Poe, they kind of wrote like that, and so I kind of was trying to imitate them. And then also I just got done reading Imbibe by David Wondrich, so I was all in this classic Golden Age cocktail thing. I got a lot about the Corpse Reviver from Ted High's book, Was it Forgotten Cocktails or whatever? I forget the name of it, slips away from me. I label it in the sources on the episode. But man, I do have to say though, I was really disappointed in some of the go-to sites that I usually go to for information on cocktails for my research. Everybody I went to, all the other sites I went to that I usually go to research, pretty much all word for word verbatim copied Ted High's article in his book. And that was making me like, man, like I know I am regurgitating knowledge here as well, reading about stuff and then trying to put, but like I really, really, really try hard not to plagiarize, verbatim. If I need to give an idea about something, I try to always reword it or combine a couple of ideas together so it doesn't come out like I just straight copied something. But some of you alcohol websites out there, you know who you are. You need to maybe do a better job of editorializing so you don't end up with a lawsuit on your hands there. But anyway, that was a great book for that. It really was a quick synopsis that summed up everything I really needed to know. A little bit of more research on the characters involved, and my job is super easy now. I really feel it must have been way more exciting for guys like David Wondrich or Jeff Berry or even Martin Cate and those guys. Like it must have been really exciting to be a cocktail archaeologist, back then, because it was probably frustrating, but every new turn, every new discovery was like, we're getting somewhere, and putting the pieces together. Now it's kind of like my job is super easy because I just go on Google and all the info is out there, so I don't really have to go do too much digging to find the stuff to make these episodes, unless it's something that something a little bit more off the beaten path. Now I still tend to go to my books before I go to the internet, so I don't want to give the impression that I just go Google everything and you're getting a bunch of generic nonsense that I found online. That's not the case. I do actually check all my sources. I cite all my sources, and if you look at my cited sources, very rarely is it like Wikipedia or like random blog articles. Usually I try to cite. I try to do my research as much as possible from the books written by the people that did the original research, whether it's Jeff Berry or Martin Cate or Ted High or David Wondrich and those guys. But it does. I'm surprised with the amount of times I go and I look at the secondary sources and they're just copied straight from the books, and it's like, man, these guys put a lot of hard work into writing these books and doing all this, and now I don't understand. Honestly, I don't understand how we're allowed to do what we do. And I mean, podcasts out there do it all the time. You're aggregating a bunch of knowledge and putting it out there, and then as long as you cite your sources, it's okay. Like, aren't we all just kind of copying stuff that I don't know. But I try to tell people all the time to make sure, like I always try to mention in the podcast, go buy the book, get the full story. As much as I want to give you an in-depth story about everything that happened, about why this turned out, this drink was this way. First of all, I want to be able to look at a bunch of different sources. Remember that when you read a book, it's coming from one author and he's writing from his perspective. I try to put a bunch of different perspectives in and give you my own thoughts on it. But if I am taking something, if one person did write the definitive, a book on something, Tiki Tome, then I always try to mention the book so that you guys can go out and get it and read the full story in their language. A lot of these guys are great writers. Jeff Berry is an incredible writer. David Wondrich is an incredible writer. These guys are educated. These guys are authors, so go check their books out. I think that is it for behind the scenes on the Corpse Reviver. There's nothing else to talk about that. Oh, there's a truck going by. So next, I'm trying to decide if we go tiki next to kind of round the year out, or there's another cocktail that I've been kind of craving lately. And to be honest, sometimes I do drinks just because I want to drink them and make them. So we might end up doing another cocktail, a modern cocktail coming up next, to round the year off. So yeah, I mean we are in no danger of running out of tiki drinks. There's plenty to make. So we even got some classics we haven't hit yet. So we got some classic Caribbean drinks we haven't hit yet. So I think we're gonna take a trip back to the Caribbean early next year on the podcast and do some more of those classic island drinks that we haven't got to yet. Maybe some Mexican drinks. So, all right, please like and subscribe to the podcast on the audio podcast. That's our main show. If you want to, please like and subscribe to this. The more people we get, the more stuff I can do. So do that. You can find the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and always, of course, at podtiki.com, where you can find all of the episodes going all the way back thus far. You can also find the EP that's up there, Summer Sessions Volume 1, the 4-song EP that I released of my beachy tracks this past summer. They're still up there. Go check them out. They're probably going to go on Spotify at some point soon, but I got to get to that. If you want to support the show, of course, there is a Patreon. You can go to Pod Tiki Podcast on Patreon. It's only $3 a month to support the show. And like I told the Patreons, my goal is to take all the money from this year and then do something, put it back into the show and do something for them at the end of the year. So there's that. And there is a show up there. There's going to be more exclusive content coming for Patreon people. That's really all I can offer right now is some more of me blabbering. So I'm going to do some more behind the scenes stuff, like around the Pod Tiki cave, with maybe some more stuff around the bar, things like that. So if you want to check us on social, most of my social is on Instagram. That's pod_tiki. You can find my personal page at rum_poet. You can always, of course, find us on Facebook, and I think we have a TikTok, but I'm not really on there that much. Yeah, so I believe that's it. I'm probably forgetting something, but please, subscribe to the YouTube, which you're watching this. Yeah, so that is it. Until next time, everybody, thanks for checking out Inside the Mug. Leave some comments below with maybe your ideas on how you feel about cocktails that take a long time to make and where your threshold is. And let me know if there's anything that you think we should do on this channel. And yeah, so peace, keep it tiki. All right, I guess we have to get back inside the mug, man. It's always hard to go. It's so hard to say goodbye. But so I gotta just get you guys to, if you just look right, come on, just all right. Yep, that's it. All right.